So your business is growing, the team's getting stronger, you've built rhythms and structure that can actually hold the weight. And suddenly, you're not in every detail anymore, which should feel like freedom, right? But instead, you feel lost, guilty, maybe even replaceable. No one talks about the identity crisis that hits when you stop being the operator and start becoming the actual CEO. Let's talk about what your business really needs from you right now. Welcome to Female Founder Unplugged, the show where we cut through the noise and have a real, raw conversation about what it takes to build and scale a successful business as a female entrepreneur. I'm Lindsay White, people strategy expert, leadership coach, and fellow founder. And I know firsthand the challenges of scaling sustainably and staying connected to your passion along the way. This podcast is for ambitious women just like you, seasoned founders and CEOs navigating the challenges of leadership, team building, and sustainable growth. In each episode, we'll dive into those topics that are most important to you as a female founder. You'll hear honest, no BS conversations about building, growing, and leading a team and culture so that you can grow without losing yourself in the process. Because let's be real, entrepreneurship can feel isolating, and leadership doesn't come with a roadmap. If you've ever struggled with the pressure of running a business, felt overwhelmed by growing your team, or wondered, how do I scale without sacrificing my vision and my purpose? You're in the right place. Let's get unplugged. Awesome. Friends, welcome back. Always glad to have you here with me on the Female Founder Unplugged podcast. You know that I am always giving you the straight goods, layered with lots and lots of love. And today, what we're talking about is one of those moments in your business when you actually need to step out and that doesn't feel great. So let's start with some of the things that you're probably hearing in your masterminds, from your other coaches, from your friends, from people that really want to give you great advice. You probably heard some of these. You got to get out of the weeds. You get to step out of the day-to-day ops. Be the visionary, set the tone. But here's what most advice like this leaves out. It's hard to step back. And what you need to do is actually step into something else. And if you haven't already defined what that something else is, that feels uncomfortable. And what ends up happening is you'll just circle back to what's familiar, what you're really good at. Reacting, over-functioning, filling in gaps, just generally being the bottleneck in your own business. And listen, I get it, because I have a client that has just done some work to restructure her team. She's been very diligent in the delegation and she's doing beautifully. And she's finally getting some space. She is actually feeling some of the freedom and the flexibility that we always wanted when we set the damn things up in the first place. But after a few weeks, she's actually really started to feel very anxious. And this really came out in one of our one-on-one sessions very recently. She's feeling very detached from her business. She's feeling like she doesn't know, and that's making her feel deeply uncomfortable. And she honestly started to feel like she doesn't have a job anymore, that nobody needs me. Her team is thriving, but she's spinning. And that saboteur has got her in the spiral, and it's just going to work on her all the time. And what's changed everything? We didn't give her less to do, but what we did is we shifted her accountabilities. We shifted the definition of her role. And in fact, that's a big change for her. She didn't disappear from her business. She's not the ghost CEO. In fact, she's finally become the CEO that her business has really needed. But what we need to do is actually make sure that we've defined her role, because she's not the chief everything officer anymore. And that feels weird. And if this is where you're at, I want you to know I'm seeing you. I hear you. I deeply respect what you're experiencing. And you're not alone. This is very, very common. So let's talk for a minute about what the CEO role actually is. Because I think we use the 3 letters, but we don't exactly know. And when I work with founders inside of my LPC accelerator, we use 4 pillars to really think about the CEO role. This helps us really get a grip on what does this mean for me as the founder, as the business owner. And, think about this as the, foundation for your new job description. Okay. So number 1, as the CEO of your business, you're the visionary steward. You're not just dreaming anymore. You're translating vision into strategy over and over and over. You have to own this vision. You have to champion this vision. This is really critical. And what you're doing is the translation work. And I know that that feels very different than the operational and tactical work. Okay, that's where the discomfort comes in. But that's what you're doing on the daily. Number 2, you're also the culture keeper. You don't own everyone's feelings, right? That is not your job to make everyone happy at work. That's not a thing. But you do set the tone. The values alignment starts with you. You need to show up. You need to be present. You need to give and receive feedback. You need to talk in a way that aligns with the value. Your behavior sets the tone, and you are the culture keeper. And that is a really critical job. Number 3, you are the strategic leader. Again, I know you didn't get into your own business to lead a group of people, but congratulations, here you are. You decide what matters most as the strategic leader. You hold the priorities, and you need to say no with clarity. You need to give feedback that is deeply meaningful and moves people and your business forward. That's your job as a strategic leader. And number 4, you are the decision architect. You're no longer the one making every call. And if you still are, I am telling you right now, you need to stop touching it. Get out of there. Let the smart people you've hired do their work. Okay? That creates so much chaos in a growing business. And you don't have to be the one making every call and every decision, but you've got to build the systems that do that. Okay? You're not managing the machine. You're designing it and you're iterating it. And that's the really important work as a decision architect, right? You are refining these processes. You are spotting the gaps and you are creating the strategies to fix them. And I know that this is a tricky emotional shift. And we're going to talk about the real stuff here. Because when you let go of doing, you might feel guilt, boredom, a sense of uselessness, like you don't have value anymore for the business. And you may feel really disconnected from the thing that you love, the work that you are passionate about doing. You've heard me talk about the LPC Accelerator. It's where we do the real work, the leadership strategy, the people systems, and culture that actually holds when things get hard. It's part one-on-one coaching, part mastermind, and it's all about helping you lead with clarity, not chaos. If you've been listening and thinking, this is what I've been missing, our next cohort kicks off March the 2nd, and there's a spot for you. If you want to grow without burning out, this is the room to be in. You can send me a DM today to learn more or check out the link in the show notes and it'll take you right to the page. And here's the truth that most people are not going to tell you out loud. Most coaches are never going to say this. You might grieve your old role. You might actually feel that process of grieving, and you might feel like you're not needed in the same way anymore. And that feels very difficult. Those are big emotions. And there's a process here. The cool part is it's not failure. This is evolution. This is you growing and changing right along with your business. And this is some of the coolest work that we do inside of the coaching that's in the accelerator. This is the deep one-on-one meaningful leadership coaching work. Because now what we're doing is evolving you. We are at the next level and it's always painful. when you go to level up. But if this is what you're feeling right now, congratulations, you are ready for the next level. And that's exactly what it looks like and feels like to successfully move from founder to CEO. And I emphasize the word success because there are lots of founders that I have seen over the years that can't make this shift. But when you do, you level up and your whole business levels up too. So let's talk a bit about this reinvention, right? Because I think this is important to illustrate sort of how this happens. I have a different client who said, when we started to work together, I don't even know what I do anymore. Like my business has grown to the point where I'm not sure where I fit in. Oof. I got to tell you, that was an uncomfortable statement for her to make. That was hard. That was hard for her to even say out loud. So what we did is we actually really worked on what is it that she really loves about the business, about the work she does. And we were really able to dial that all the way back to some of her biggest values. She loves being creative. She loves inventing. She really loves connection and creating relationships with people. And she's a bit of a pleaser like me, so she really likes helping. She wants to support others as they build their dreams. And I think that that's so important when we can touch back to what are our values? What is our purpose? What are we doing on this planet? What are we here to create or change? We can then from there start to reevaluate and reinvent what we do and how we can show up in our business. And one of the very tactical ways to apply that is looking at your calendar. And that's what we did here with this client. We started to rebuild what her weeks and months and quarters looked like, her priorities. Where was her thinking time? If she needed to be creative, how are we building that in? So what happened was strategy reviews became a once a week thing. Monthly decision meetings with her leads in her business. And then we built in time that worked for her. Like she loves to do this work in the morning. So we actually built in time for her to really think and really process and really reflect, not respond. So what happened was she went from, I feel like I'm just untethered and I'm floating, to I finally feel like a grown-ass CEO. Like I actually really feel like I got this. And she stopped measuring her value by how busy she was and started measuring it in how well her business could run without her always in the weeds. And the feeling of that for her was astronomical. She really started to feel like a CEO. She really started to feel like and appreciate what success she'd had. She really started to feel that freedom and flexibility, which is why I think we start these damn businesses in the first place. And she could embrace it. She could really, really step into that. And that's what I want for every single one of you that's listening, that feeling. So let's reframe some of this together. In our last session, we talked about building rhythms and building structure. And I think that is one of the most important things that helps us step into the CEO role. So if you've started to build those, if your team is rising and you don't need to fill your time, you just need to refine your seat at the table and really redefine what your role is. And I want you to think and ask yourself, what kind of strategic thinking does this business need from me right now? How am I holding and championing vision, culture, and the decisions at scale? Also, you need to think about, where do I need to show up less so I can lead more? These, my friends, are the questions that will allow you to reflect. And this is where the CEO shift comes from. And when you make that shift, it changes everything. I will tell you, these are the shifts that we are making inside of the LPC Accelerator. We focus on your leadership. We create a people strategy that elevates your team. And we wrap that up with a culture where people can perform, including you. This is the key work. These are the key levers to pull to accelerate that scaling in your business, accelerate the growth. This is why I'm so passionate about this work. I love it. All right. Next week on the show, we're going to take it one step further, because once you've got the rhythms and the structures, once you've stepped out of being the bottleneck and you've redefined your role, now you need a team that can rise with you. We're going to talk about building leaders inside of your business. So it's not just you at the top with everybody reporting to you. It's actually about a whole structure of leaders that can help you drive this business forward. All right. Before I wrap up, what I do want to say is if you have a business bestie who you know is in this space and is struggling with this, please share this episode with them. We would love it if you would subscribe so you immediately get notified about next week's episode. And of course, it's so helpful to the show if you leave us a review, because that's what spurs the rhythms to get us in front of more people. So please, if you could take a moment right now and do that, I would absolutely love that. And until I see you next week, don't forget to lead with heart, grow with purpose, and stay high voltage. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Female Founder Unplugged. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Connect with me on Instagram at High Volt Leadership and send me your questions or let me know your biggest takeaway. Looking for more strategies on scaling your business, building a powerhouse team, or leading with confidence? Head over to highvoltageleadership.ca or follow me on LinkedIn for exclusive content, resources, and special offers just for listeners. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and remember, the real magic happens when you're unplugged.
This podcast is produced, mixed, and edited by Cardinal Studio. For more information about how to start your own podcast, please visit www.cardinalstudio.co or email Mike at mike@cardinalstudio.co. You can also find the details in the show notes.